So finally, I think drawing all that together, I think from my point of view, what I see our motivation, this meeting and other meetings and subsequent meetings in October, it's all about trying to promote areas of excellence in the practice. And that doesn't mean that everything is excellent, and we need to identify those areas that aren't, but actually to promote those that are. And I think this is the first, I hope, of it gives us an opportunity to swap ideas so that we can go forward together to improve what we can offer. And I think that's really the best moment to hand over to Adam, who is going to take that forward, I think. Thank you very much.
You probably just have to adjust your eye line now because you've been looking at Andrew up there. So if anyone wants me to stand on a stool, I think for a start, if I've got a beaming smile on my face, I'm just so pleased to see so many people here. I genuinely can't believe it. I think it's fantastic, and there's loads of familiar faces, and I just wanted to say thank you to people for that because it's a really good opportunity. Yes. There's an element that change is inevitable, and that organisations have to embrace change, or they're just going to die. And we have to embrace change at the moment. Whatever people's political leanings are, or what they think about Andrew Lansley, or all of that, there's an inevitability about what's happening now, and that is not going to go back. We can't go back to the way things were. And so instead of looking at this as a real challenge to things, we have to look at it as an opportunity. And from where we are now to where we're going to be in 2 years' time, there's a huge change in the focus of how healthcare is going to be delivered. And that's why now is the opportune moment for everybody to get involved in a way that's never been as important in the past. Because those decisions that will affect your healthcare and your communities can properly be derived locally. And there's been lip service to that in the past, much as there's been lip service within the NHS to patient participation. It's been a political correctness, and we're really, really lucky in Dartmouth that we've had quite a lot of people who've been involved for many, many years. And this is not saying that that hasn't been important, and without their continued support, we wouldn't be where we are now. But this is about opening it out. This is about opening it out to loads of other people who've never felt that they've had a say before. And it's so important that we're as inclusive as possible at this moment in time to go forward. So we can meet these challenges, but know that we're meeting them together for a greater good. So there are things that in our minds that we think, well, these are the type of things that we want to take forwards. But it's very paternalistic. It's a bit like us trying to sort out the appointment system. Oh, I know what's best. We'll tinker with this and we'll do that and we'll change that, and it doesn't work. Because it's all about, well, what do we think? And we've got to change that. But this is my list. This is my list. And it's sort of expanding on what both Graham and Andrew have alluded to in their talks about what we offer now and sort of the educational context and where they felt that things needed to change. So, as Graham mentioned, this idea of holding specialist knowledge within general practice is fantastic. We're relatively geographically isolated here. You know, it's an hour on a bus, if a bus exists, you know, to get anywhere, to go and see anybody. We're reliant on patient transport, and that's reliant on the ferry. People are leaving for appointments at sort of, you know, just as the, you know, cock crows in the morning and not getting home until it's dark at night. You know, it's just bonkers, you know, and we have to be able to offer extra level of specialist skill within our community. Now, Tony's been doing it for years. He's brilliant at the ENT stuff. You know, I've come on afterwards and start doing the cardiology and cardiovascular stuff. And Dr. Udelia has done additional training in dermatology, and Fiona's been doing stuff about sexual health for many moons. We've got great level of expertise, but we have to be able to expand that. And to expand it properly, to train further, to dedicate 2 years of our lives to additional diplomas and things, we have to think, well, what's really important? Unless we ask you, we don't know. There are possibilities, as sort of Graham alluded to, that, you know, just as Tony is now doing ENT and offering it to surrounding villages and surrounding towns and sharing that knowledge, again, it's just generally better for the population of the South Hams, and we'd hope to do that with the cardiology stuff or whatever in time. Andrew's talked about the educational opportunities. I can't having students in the practice is just brilliant. It really, really keeps you on your toes, and they're just like 20 times a day there's a question that you can't be 100% sure that you know the answer to. So you're off in your books, you're on the internet, you're finding out additional stuff. It's really invigorating. Access. We've talked about access in two contexts, haven't we? One was about parking, and this is about the other access about our feeling that we just haven't got it quite right. We don't allow you guys to see us in the way that we need to. But I can't sort that out by myself. And I really, really need patient involvement. As we said about before, the last time we had a discussion about it, there were 6 people in the room. And look at this, it's fantastic. We need to continue building on, say, the work that Graham's done. So that when Graham has either been, you know, he's sort of primary care czar or so, I don't know, something like that, because of that, you know, there's years and years of expertise that he's got, that somebody's there to step into his shoes, that can take that forward so that we never lag behind. Andrew was talking about Dr. McConaughey, you know, the fact that the education within the practice has been going on for donkey's years, and we need to make sure that we invest within the practice and make sure that we retain the skills so that we can continue to take it forward. Oh, it's crazy that we're down where we are at the moment. We really have to relocate. And again, when you're designing something, when you're thinking about it, when you're trying to plan what's best for patients, we can't do it without your help. And our long-term aim is to just increase the amount of services that are available locally. And so that's in my head, that's what I think. But as I've alluded to, I can't, and we can't, answer all those questions. And your input is absolutely vital. And this time, 2011 to 2013, is the biggest opportunity that you lot have to influence how services are developed. And it might never come around again. It's just really, really important. And it is about developing a partnership. It's about developing a partnership for a healthcare community within the town. And I'm just hoping that I know the voices that have helped us in the past will continue to help us. I just hope the numbers swell, and I hope there's loads more people want to fundamentally affect what we're going to do. Thank you.
Thank you to the GPs. Brilliant. I hope that some of you, if not all of you, are impressed by how candid and honest all three of these doctors have been right now. I hope you have learnt new things, learnt something you didn't know about your Dartmouth medical practice. I'm sure you have your views, and that's what we're coming to now. The public forum. The forum is an exchange of views. In a second, I'm going to ask for questions from the floor, points of view. What I'd like you to do is, if you could very clearly state your name, if you're happy to do that, and frame your question to me. I'll repeat it to everyone, and then invite one of the GPs to respond, if not all of them, if they all feel that they have maybe a point of view to give. I just want to reiterate what everyone's been saying. This is about getting involved. And the only way you can be involved is if you're informed. There's some forms here. If you have an email address, please stick your email address down on here. If you don't have an email address, it's an email form, but put your address down and we will post you a monthly newsletter from here on in. That is something that the medical practice is undertaking to do. So whenever there are new services, whenever there are opportunities for you to get involved, that will be going forward. And remember that we are going to be doing these public forums every 6 months as well. So you need to be informed if you want to come along and get involved in that discussion. But, the moment of truth. Is there anyone out there with a question? Yes, please.
Helen Lindsay.
Helen Lindsay. Hello, Helen.
I have two questions really for Dr. Morris. What you would like to do is splendid. Have you got enough hours in the day to do all that? And surely half of it you should be doing now. The other half of my question is, going back to that list, which is splendid, could you explain, or someone explain, how the government's plans are going to help to implement that?
Okay, so let me just quickly frame that. I think, Helen, what you're asking is how are we going to facilitate this in terms of GP time? How are we going to make these things happen? There is a question, there was a reference there to whether or not they should be providing services now. I think they'll be able to answer that. Is there anything that Dartmouth Medical Practice isn't offering that perhaps it should? And 3, what is the government doing to help Dartmouth Medical Practice and all medical practices provide those new services? Who is the best person to answer that, do we think?
Well, as it was addressed to me, if I just take the first point for a start, there's a lot of uncertainty about this at the moment, and we all work collaboratively together. We don't do lunch breaks, we don't have coffee breaks, we don't have any time that's not taken up with all of this other sort of work, and we just desperately believe that this is the right thing to do. And it's like setting this up, a patient participation group that actually means something. It's just fundamentally important, so we've found time to do stuff. So that's, I think, in terms of the first point.
Yes, well, thank you, but I feel you're already doing this. How can you do much more?
I suppose it's actually, this is a nice problem to have. It's a nice problem to have, patient participation that we're going to have to find time for. Really is. In terms of answering to your other questions about preparation, whether the government's helping, Graham's much more knowledgeable than I, so I've just defer to Graham if that's possible.
Okay, I think the answer to that one is there are some things the government's doing that will specifically help some of those items on the agenda, and some things that frankly won't make much difference one way or the other. There's a couple of really key points. Is that for many, many, many years, as long as I've been in Devon, the number of GPs in Devon per head of population has stayed exactly the same. So there are no more GPs per head of population in Devon than there were 25, 26 years ago. The number of consultants in acute hospitals has escalated dramatically to the point where there are now more consultants than there are GPs in Devon, which some of you might find surprising. Now, the logical corollary to that is that because consultants operate and work in big, expensive establishments, a lot of the money that the health service has used in the past has shifted towards secondary care. That's what we call everything that's outside of general practice, community nursing, community therapy. Everything that side of that is called secondary care. And a lot of the resources shifted into that. And you have seen the benefits of that as a population, because you've seen waiting lists tumble. Again, when I first came to Devon, you would wait 3 years for a hip replacement. You're now waiting 16, 17 weeks. And that's the sort of flip side to the fact that all the money's gone there. But if we're going to make this agenda happen, we actually have to do something about taking some of that activity out of the acute hospitals and actually putting it back into primary care, developing GPs that have a whole load of skills that can make sure that the activity does happen closer to the patient.